Well, first tonight, to the political brinkmanship that has placed the United States a little more than a day away from hitting the debt ceiling, and then the prospect of a catastrophic default. Well, rival sides in the Senate had been making bipartisan progress towards resolving the budget deadlock when it was revealed that House Republicans had reinserted demands for changes to Barack Obama's healthcare reforms.
Extremist Republicans in the House of Representatives are attempting to torpedo the Senate's bipartisan progress with a bill that can't pass the Senate. Can't pass the Senate.
There are a lot of opinions about what direction to go. There have been no decisions about what exactly we will do.
Well, President Obama has issued a straightforward message to negotiators.
Let's not do any posturing. Let's not try to save face. Let's not worry about politics. Do what's right.
Well, many commentators say financial markets haven't factored in the threat of default, thinking it impossible. But today, the ratings agency Fitch put the US on notice that it could cut the nation's AAA sovereign credit rating. Well, to talk more about this, let's join our guest tonight, Adam Lockyer. Adam is a lecturer at the US Studies Centre from the University of Sydney. Adam Lockyer, good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Good evening.
How long can this game of chicken continue for?
Well, until Thursday afternoon US time, when the United States will reach its debt ceiling and it won't be able to borrow any more money, at which point it will hold a real prospect of defaulting on its loans.
What are each side playing at here? What is the end game as the whole world watches on and holds its collective breath?
Well, there's a few different cleavages here. So it's not just a straight competition between Democrats on the one side and Republicans on the other side. It's really a battle for the heart and soul of the GOP itself, with this hardcore rump of the Tea Party trying to get leverage over the more moderate Republicans and trying to take control over the political agenda of the Republican Party.
Just how much damage is this doing to the US's international standing, and particularly when you see comments coming out of Beijing about, well, maybe it's time we de-Americanise our focus in regard to the global economy?
Yeah, I mean, this is going right into this whole narrative of US decline, that to be strong overseas, they need to be first get their home in order. And we see that, you know, just recently with Barack Obama staying away from APEC, the East Asian Summit, that American leadership is completely absent right now. And without the US, then people are looking for other countries to step up to the plate. And we have the Russians, the Chinese and the Japanese all willing and able to step up.
John Delavosca.
How do the Tea Party, in the problematic you've outlined, get so much power within the GOP to force their congressional colleagues, who are presumably the majority, to persist with their current strategy?
Yeah, because the normal moderate Republicans, they see the Democrats as the opposition, whereas the Tea Party, they're targeting other Republicans. So they're telling the House Republicans right now that you vote with us, otherwise we're going to put up candidates, Tea Party candidates, in your congressional districts in the upcoming midterm elections. And if so, you might be ousted during the primaries. So in many of these congressional districts, it's not so much that the threat of being ousted during the general election, it's during the primaries. And the Tea Parties are threatening to run candidates in these guys' districts if they don't toe the party line, which they think is the Tea Party line.
What will happen to the Tea Party if they'll in some ways be able to claim victory however way it goes? Are we at risk of them becoming even stronger because of this, or is it potentially going to destroy them?
Possibly. I think they learnt from 2011, where we sort of went through all this at the same time, and the Tea Party saw that as both the Democrats and President Obama and the moderate Republicans blinked, and they gave in to many of the Tea Party's demands, and they think that they now can win. And when President Obama is saying we don't negotiate with terrorists, that's because if you do negotiate with terrorists, then they just take the wrong lessons from that, and they think they can play the same game again. And so they can't give in this time, and they believe they can't give in this time. And even if they kick the can down the road a little bit, down to January, February next year, which is what they're talking about, then if the Tea Party isn't defeated this time around, then we can go through the whole same sorry situation in just a few months' time.
So, Adam, what about the scenario that it's not approved, and we're into default Is this going to be worse than the GFC in terms of its impact, would you think?
That's what the economists are all saying. So this will be worse than Lehman Brothers going broke, because this is not Lehman Brothers not being able to repay its loans. This is the federal government not being able to repay its loans. So most of US government debt is not held internationally. Most of it is held domestically. So it's borrowed money of other financial institutions within the United States. Now, if they don't get their money, then they can't give out credit, and all of the cogs, the parts of the machinery within the United States stop working, and that's then going to radiate out from the United States and go crashing into Europe and Asia, and it could have worldwide repercussions.
It's somewhat ironic, in terms of here's the US that's always trying to teach other countries how to run a democracy. And, in terms of 101 democracy, if a government wins an election, they should be able to implement their agenda. And so, it clearly shows the defects in the American Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, we have this definite change of tone within American diplomats recently, whereas we've got used to American diplomats going to places like Taiwan and saying, what you guys really ought to be doing is this. And they can't say that anymore, because at home they're in shambles and they can't get anything done. And so how can they go abroad and say, this is the way to run a democracy, this is the way to run an economy, when they can't get their home in order?
Is there any serious risk of us ending up with facing a Tea Party president?
Probably not, just because they're not popular within the general population. I mean, they're not moderate enough to get anybody over the line. Now, Ted Cruz is a pretty prominent Tea Partier. He's really become prominent during this latest crisis, where there hasn't really been a leader of the Tea Party, and it looks like as though Ted Cruz is trying to step up the plate and take on that mantle. People are saying that he's a possible presidential candidate in 2016, sorry. But I mean, although he'll probably even struggle to get through the primaries, because moderate Republicans aren't going to vote for him, and he has very little chance in the general election, where the more moderate general population won't vote for him.
Is the main concern, that main objection that the Tea Party are putting up still the Obamacare, or what we think of as a Medicare type arrangement? Is that their main concern? If so, why are they as a group so obsessed with dismantling that program? Is it because, as I've heard, that they are aligned with extremists around issues on abortion, that they think that a medical system which supports free abortions is immoral and therefore it must be destroyed, or is it a broader concern than that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Obamacare is like the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, where it's the spark. It's the spark that triggered this internal civil war within the GOP. But it's not really the causes. It's all about power and influence and the leadership of the GOP. Now, Obamacare in particular has really rubbed up the Tea Party the wrong way, and that's for a number of different reasons. But if you want to get the Tea Party fired up, the first two things you don't do is you threaten civil liberties and independent freedom, and you don't raise taxes. And they see Obamacare as doing both. Right. So for universal health care to work, you needed to get everybody to buy into the program. So the young and the healthy have to pay money to subsidise the elderly and the sick.
And the Mexicans, I've heard from Americans say, but how would we solve it during our parties? We just go and stack them out, wouldn't we?
Just eventually accept
or your factions would tie it up.
Adam, when you were talking about the ripples before, the potential ripples, global ripples, how much is that even factored in during this domestic political tussle? How much do both parties think about this, that, hang on, we're not only playing chicken here with each other, we are playing chicken with the world?
I think that President Obama in particular does see things in a more global perspective, and he sees the consequences of what's going on at home in that sort of context. Though the Tea Party that's not where the focus is. They think that the debt is out of control and they have to draw a line somewhere. They think that entitlements within the United States are out of control, that taxes are going from hard-working Americans off to people who are just drawing upon from entitlements, and they need to draw a line somewhere. So that's what they're getting really fanatical about. They see this as a desperate situation, and even if it means closing down the government and perhaps even potentially defaulting on the loans, they must do something right now.
Could I ask, you two gentlemen, with your political experience, at what point does political expediency or political survival kick in? And both sides go, if we continue this, the American public is going to absolutely hate us here. We have to work this out for our own survival.
Yeah, I think there's the shift when people see jobs threatened, public agencies closing down. Then I think you'd see a significant shift and where, you know, the emails going through to their local member of Congress would be saying, just fix this thing, and we could see street demonstrations and whatever. I would think that we're going to have quite a significant response to all of this. But I mean, at the bottom line, there is an issue, though, in terms of the debt level in the US, which is huge. So, I mean, there is some legitimacy in trying to fix that, but it's always let other people fix it, and let's not necessarily worry about the poor and the disadvantaged.
And you're not allowed to raise taxes while you're trying to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's us do all right and increase our wealth. So, anyway, sorry.
No, it's all right. Well, I think the problem has been pretty, you know, I think the difficulty here is that the people causing the problem don't seem to be interested in the public interest. They're interested in they define the public interest in a different way to the sort of public consensus kind of approach that an Obama might. And so their very ideological definition of the public interest is going to mean they may well push this as far and as hard as they can. And it's hard to see how that could be broken. But it seems to me that it will be a crushing defeat in a future poll for the GOP if they are totally dominated by people that are unacceptable to the general public. That'll start changing things. Surely there'll be a fight back within the GOP.
Yeah, and plus also the next Congress elections, what that would mean.
Adam, a nice simple question to end with. Could you pull out your crystal ball and tell us how this is going to end?
Well, that's really difficult to see.
Hold you to it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's really difficult to see a way out of this mess now. We've had last night the Senate came together, so both Democrats and Republicans put together a continuing resolution that would see a way out. It went to the House, and John Boehner has said no, we're still going to strip Obamacare of funding, and it's just been dead on arrival in the House. Now, with less than 48 hours to go, does the impetus for change come from the House? Does it come from the Senate? It's really difficult to see how we're going to move forward from here.
Dr. Adam Lockyer from the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney, thanks so much for sharing your time and perspective with us today on The Drum.
Thank you.